Good Thursday afternoon to you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. A little later in the show, Sam Amico from hoopswire.com will join us. We'll talk about what a job J.B. Bickerstaff is doing. How do the Cavs replace Ricky Rubio? Who needs to step up? And can the Cavs keep their great start going? But we begin by talking Browns getting ready for that Monday night matchup in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. Some news out of Berea. Greg Newsome, Chase McLaughlin, the kicker, J.C. Treader, Jordan Elliott, all activated off of the reserve COVID-19 list, so hopeful they will be available to go Monday night against the Steelers. Myles Garrett was practicing. Now, Troy Hill not practicing. Kareem Hunt not practicing. Malik Jackson, John Johnson, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah all not practicing today. But nobody, I repeat, nobody has been ruled out for Monday night's game against the Steelers. Kevin Stefanski met with the media earlier, talked about what getting Kareem Hunt back in the backfield would mean against the Steelers.
Yeah, I think we'll see. Like you said, I'm not ruling him out. Want to see how he looks throughout the week. If we can get him back, I think that'd be a big boost to our team. He's a great competitor. So we're hoping that he can make it back. Dearness has stepped up for us in big moments and come through. And having said that, I think all those guys are different. So if you don't have Nick, you're not going to replace Nick. If you don't have Kareem, you're not going to replace Kareem per se. These guys are great players. So Kareem has a different style than each one of those guys. They all have their own flavor in terms of how they run, how they play. And certainly Kareem's style fits what we do. So if we are able to get him back, look forward to utilizing him.
Let's welcome in Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. And Tim, I think the Browns offense, I think we have minimized how much Kareem Hunt means to them. I think their offense is just different when Kareem Hunt is able to play.
No question about it. I mean, he's such a multidimensional player on this offense with his ability to run between the tackles, to get to the perimeter, and to be a weapon in the passing game, particularly the screen game. You know, it's always one of those things where you don't know what you have till it's gone, and it's clear, you know, how impactful Hunt has been when he's been healthy, how much of a boost it's been to have him and Nick Chubb together. And if the Browns can get him on Monday night against Pittsburgh, that would be outstanding for them, because we talked about on Tuesday, the Steelers, in one of the more surprising things of the season, have the NFL's worst run defense. So if you can have not one, not two, but three really good running backs out there that you can rotate, and if this is the week that the Browns do what Browns Twitter has been asking them to do, is run the football with frequency. If you have three healthy backs to go at them and chip away at that defense, that's a really good opportunity to, you know, capitalize on that weakness of the Steelers defense.
Yeah, and again, he's one of those guys that just seems to make everybody on the offense play a little better, a little harder. Everybody seems to kind of rally around him. Ben Roethlisberger met with the media earlier today, talked about the stories out there and the potential that this could be his final regular season home game in Pittsburgh. Here's Ben Roethlisberger from earlier today.
I don't ever speak in definites or guarantees. That's just not what I've ever done or who I am. But, you know, looking at the bigger picture, I would say that all signs are pointing to this could be it. Regular season, that is. I know we still have a chance to potentially get a playoff game there if things fall our way and we take care of business and things have to happen. But in the grand scheme of things, in terms of regular seasons, signs are pointing that way. This could be it. The fun thing is I know that I still have it in the tank to go out there this week and next week and give it everything I have, to do everything I can to get us into the postseason, because that's always the ultimate goal, is to win a Lombardi, and that's still my goal. We're not out of this thing yet. The emotions will start to kick in. I mean, they already have when you think about it, but I think I'm able to put those emotions a little bit on the back burner because of the focus of what we have to do to win this game. This is a team that's hungry. That it's the Browns. I mean, it's the division opponent, and so they're hungry to come in and get a win too. So I can't sit here all week and just be nostalgic and think about everything that my career has been, when I've got to focus on this game, because that's the most important. This is the most important game of the season for us right now.
And Tim, Browns fans, Ben Roethlisberger can't retire fast enough. Take a look at the numbers. These are Ben Roethlisberger's regular season career games at home against the Browns. 13-0, over 3,000 yards, 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, 22 touchdowns in 13 games, 103.3 passer rating. So the Browns would love to send him off with a loss and keep them out of the playoffs. There is that whole payback kind of thing going as well from the playoff win that the Browns had in Heinz Field a year ago.
Yeah, this for a regular season game, you can't get many more storylines, many more, stakes on the line when it comes to a win for both teams. Because, as Ben Roethlisberger alluded to, not only do the Browns still have a shot to get into the playoffs, especially if the Bengals and Ravens lose on Sunday, which are very realistic possibilities. Is not like neither of those teams are, expected to win by a lot, but going either way, they're both underdogs at home. But going into this game on Monday night, it is going to be as wild an atmosphere as you could possibly expect for a regular season game. The Steelers did get a little bit of revenge, I think, by beating the Browns, way back earlier in the season when they beat them in Cleveland. The Browns, obviously, this is pretty much the last stand for this team. The good news for them is they've got pretty much everybody back that's going to be back. Jadeveon Clowney's back, Greg Newsome's back, all those guys off the COVID list should be back for this game. They're about as healthy as you could be, and it comes at a good time because the Browns need to win out to have any shot at the playoffs. The Steelers are kind of in a very similar boat, and not to mention, Ben Roethlisberger wanted to go out of Heinz Field with a win. His team wanted to send him out. You couldn't have more emotionally charged Monday night game, I think, if you tried, than what we're going to get in Heinz Field.
Yeah, and the players, they want to play in games like that. Baker Mayfield talked about the importance and the atmosphere that he expects in this Monday night game against the Steelers.
With everything in our division, the situation at hand for both teams right now, regardless of Ben's situation, I think it would be a great environment. And then to add on top of that, just everything that he's given to that franchise over the years, the success he's had consistently for a very, very long time. I have nothing but respect for Ben. And so I'm expecting just an even better environment, both teams to be playing for, the livelihood of the playoffs at hand. So it's just one of those things that everything's aligning to where this game matters quite a bit. But for us, we need to handle it like any other game and one play at a time to do our job at the best possible level we can.
And Tim, this is in essence a playoff elimination game. Loser is out. The winner needs help to stay in, but if they get the help and the help's not unrealistic, they would still be in the playoffs going into the final week of the regular season.
Yeah, it's one of those games where you don't really have a lot to gain, but you have everything to lose by losing. And I guess the Browns do have at least a little bit of, help in that department, knowing that they have experienced the playoffs, that they just won a playoff game. They know what it's like to be in these kind of games now, as opposed to last year when they were just going through it really as a group for the first time. So that helps. But I think when it comes to this game in particular, I think whoever's going to have the advantage is going to be the team that can control their emotions the best. The Steelers are going to be playing full of emotion, because they want to not only stay in the playoff race, but they want to make sure that Ben's last game at Pittsburgh isn't a loss for the Browns. They want to prove that, they're as good as everybody said they were going to be at the beginning of the season. And obviously at 7-8, they've fallen short of those expectations. A loss pretty much ends the season. It guarantees them a losing season with 9 losses going into that last game against Cincinnati. And potentially a win does potentially set up that winner take all game between the Browns and the Bengals in week 18. But the Browns obviously can't think that far ahead because the season is Monday night for both these teams. Pittsburgh's got the advantage, I think, of being at home, the emotional juice of what should be Ben's final game in Pittsburgh, but the Browns do have, I think, a talent edge and the experience edge of that. The fact that the last time they went in Pittsburgh, they put up 49 points against the Steelers and sent Pittsburgh home in the wild card round of the playoffs. So it really is going to be interesting to see how this turns out.
Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, We will hear from Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield on the season to date. We'll also listen in as Denzel Ward is covering Davante Adams. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns, getting ready for the Steelers Monday night, Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. Kevin Stefanski talked about the season for Baker Mayfield. Hasn't been what Baker Mayfield thought it would be for himself and the team, really.
I think for Baker, it's so similar to our team. We've been inconsistent coaches. We've been inconsistent. We just haven't consistently done it at a high level, enough. And that's what happens when you have the record we have and some of the opportunities that we've talked about in the past. So for all of us, we're just searching for that consistency, and really for all of us, we have to double down on how we prepare. I think you guys know Baker. He works very, very hard at this. He grinds. The quarterback room with him and Case and Nick and AVP, TC McCartney. I mean, those guys spend a lot of time on this and making sure that they're ultra prepared to play.
Tim Bielik, we've talked about this a little bit. Do you think Baker Mayfield is pressing? I'd love for him to go out, complete a couple passes, and start having a little bit of fun at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I wrote about that on Tuesday for our Football Insider newsletter. I think he's pressing, and you bring up a good point that maybe he's not having as much fun as he normally has. I mean, we know his sense of humor. We see it in the Progressive commercials that you see a few times a week out there, that he's got a sense of humor. He's a guy that, plays off emotion, and there's good and bad to it. When it's good and he's riding high, you can see the confidence is sky high, but Saturday, I really saw a lot of pressing, and I think, there's so many factors that go into that. The poor play, the injuries, we know he hears the noise, even if he's better now at tuning it out than maybe he was, early in his NFL career. He still can hear it because that's just kind of how it is. And there's all sorts of pressure for him to need to be good. And you can see that out there. And especially, I think where it shows it the most is in the 2-minute drill. I mean, you look at the numbers of what he's done in the fourth quarter. He's been one of the worst fourth quarter quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think that comes from pressing too much and feeling like he needs to do too much instead of just doing the simple thing, get the ball out, get it to guys and let them do their thing instead of feeling like he needs to force something, like he needs to be the hero in these situations. Just be the distributor that he knows how to be. And I think that's all that he really needs to do. I mean, we've seen him do it before. I mean, he's had some fourth quarter comebacks in his career. He just needs to find a way to settle down and relax in those moments, because I always think back to the one story of the Super Bowl when the 49ers played and Joe Montana, I think it was against the Bengals, when he said he was in the huddle asking the guys like, hey, is that John Candy over there? And the calm and the poise that he has in there, I think that's where Baker just kind of needs to find a way to be is to just be calm in those situations and just keep things simple. If he does that in those situations, I think he can be fine.
Yeah, and the one thing I would say is losing isn't fun, and I know that bothers him. Let's get to the shoulder harness. You think it's affecting him, and then what do you do moving forward if you're the Browns?
I think the shoulder harness is certainly bothering him. I mean, you watch all these games on television. It seems like all the other analysts you hear from like Troy Aikman to Tony Romo, I think Trent Greenham might mention this. The harness has to be affecting him because ideally in your throwing mechanics, you want to use your left arm to help out your right arm to create balance, and then your feet kind of help with the rest of that. If your arm movement is already impeded by a shoulder harness, which is limiting that mobility, your mechanics are just not going to be good. There's no way around it. And I mean, Mayfield needs that shoulder harness right now to play because let's not forget, still got a fully torn labrum in his left shoulder. And he's had that for almost 4 months now. Like, we're already at the end of December. This is a week 2 injury that's still impacting him. I think that's going to impact him until he has surgery, which is why I've said, if you're going to shut him down, he probably needs to have the surgery, and it's not a 1 week shutdown. It has to be months and months for him to shut down. You probably don't have him for the season, which is why I think the Browns have tried to see if he could play his way through it. And you see just the amount of struggles he has. And then the lower body injuries he's had certainly have disrupted his footwork and his mechanics. But in spite of all this stuff that's going on with Baker, all the outside noise about the Browns need to get rid of him to move on with him, I don't think they should. I mean, you still can technically have 2 years left to control. You have the 5th-year option. You could franchise him in year 6. We've seen what a healthy Baker can do. This is not a healthy Baker out there right now. He's not going to be healthy. He was never going to be healthy once he hurt his shoulder. That just wasn't going to happen. So the key, I think, is you got to get him healthy. And I think he needs to be able to work in the offseason with a quarterback's coach out there to help to continue to refine his footwork, help refine his progressions, because those are things I think he can work on while his left shoulder and the rest of his body heal up. But by no means do I think the Browns should give up on Baker Mayfield. I think he's shown way too much potential, way too much talent for them to just, after one bad season with these kind of injuries, to just give up on him. I think that would be a foolish mistake.
All right, so Baker Mayfield talked about kind of his year, dealing with adversity, playing injured, and all that's gone into getting where they are right now, getting ready for this game against the Steelers.
Yeah, there's been a lot of firsts for me this year, but that comes with the territory and the position I'm in. So have to handle it the best I possibly can. And I know I've said the cheesy cliche comment, there's no manual on how to handle this, and there hasn't been. So it's been one day at a time throughout this season. And to me, that's the only way to correctly handle it. And try and make the most of the opportunities, try and find the positives within a lot of the negativity around, whether, it was created by the outside or what. It's just, realizing the things that matter, prioritizing that, and, blocking out the rest to be able to focus on the job at hand. I'd say yes, but only because, some of that drama earlier in the year was within the building, and it wasn't just directly outside. So it was, we had to handle a few things internally, and that's okay. We did that, and now we're here. So that's what matters.
And Tim, this kind of goes back to what you said. It not only has been a tough year physically, the mental toll that it's taken is, it's almost as much as the physical.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, it's clear he's tough. We know that. We've seen that throughout the season. You don't need to see, him toughing out through his shoulder injury, all the limping he's done, to know how tough he is. But, he is human. We're all human. And at some point, everything that's happened, all the pressure from the losses, all the noise about not performing well, combined with the pain he's under probably every day because of the shoulder, because of what's gone on with his knees and his hip, his heel, it's got to take a toll on him. I mean, how could it not? It's been just so much thrown at him, just internally and externally. You can see it just kind of weigh on him a little bit. And I think that goes into what I was talking about earlier with him pressing, is feeling like, if I make this, I don't know how he thinks, but if there's a situation where, like, if he can make one if you can make one throw to fix everything, he wants to do it, and it doesn't work that way. Sometimes the best way to deal with pressure and to deal with all those things is just try and simplify things, I think, as much as possible. and not worry about, just being overly complicated, just not trying to make things harder than they have to be. Just simplify. Just make it as simple as you can. And I think that's where he kind of needs to be these last 2 games. I know it's going to be painful for him to play through this. It's been for the entire season, but if he could just compartmentalize and simplify what he's doing out there, I think you have a chance to see the best Baker we've seen since the shoulder injury.
All right, this one's a little bit of fun. We're going to listen in. Denzel Ward, who is covering Davante Adams, mic'd up. Let's listen in to Ward and Adams in the Packers-Browns game.
Yeah! You're a good player, bro.
Gotcha. You can't tell me that you just got a ball on me.
It's real though. He said, you can't tell me that after you just made a play on me. I'm like, all right, I won't say anything then. I said, you are, bro. You're a good player. You just got to make a play. I make a play on everybody.
Tim, you got to like Davante Adams. I make plays on everybody. And you know what? You can't argue with that, but it's always interesting to listen to some of the talk that goes on.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I love the fact that these players are mic'd up. You can hear pretty much everything they're saying. It's a lot of fun. I mean, Davante's right. He's probably the best receiver in football right now. I mean, I can't think of a corner right now outside of maybe J.C. Jackson of the Patriots that could – slow him down one-on-one. There's nobody that's going to stop him. I mean, he's just that good, especially with the chemistry he has with Aaron Rodgers, that they've played together so long that it's so effortless for them. And we saw it on Saturday against the Browns, just how easy he makes it look. And, I mean, that's a Pro Bowl corner Denzel Ward is going against. We talked about how great Ward has been this season. You're not going to stop Davante Adams with one guy. And, that's a matchup that was fun to watch. It's to see 2 really great players go head-to-head. And I think that's kind of what the NFL is all about, is seeing, the best of the best go head-to-head, 60, 70 times a game and 17 games of the season. It's a lot of fun, and you get matchups like that. And it's always fun to kind of hear a player's perspective on that.
Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, former Steelers running back Merril Hoge diagrams how the Steelers had some success. First game against the Browns this year. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine. Too late at night. But feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Browns getting ready for the Steelers Monday night. First game they played here in Cleveland. Steelers came away 15-10 winners. They ran the ball for 115 yards and a touchdown. Steelers.com playbook with former Steelers running back Merril Hoge diagrams some of the success the Steelers had against the Browns defense.
Let's go to the snap of the ball. Watch the line of scrimmage. Okay, line of scrimmage was here, now it is here. Controlling the line of scrimmage. You give this cat running lanes, he will devastate you and run on the football. And in the NFL, this has been called a big play, 9 yards. Now let's go to the end zone. You're gonna see how that jet motion affected the box players. And when I say box, the linebackers. Here comes Claypool. As he comes this way, watch these linebackers move this way. Why that's important is you have these offensive linemen, as we've already seen, come off of the ball this way. When they're coming off that way and these linebackers are moving this way, well, they can't get downhill like they should be. That really neutralized them and affected them right there. They snapped the ball. Man, you got double teams. You got guys accounted for, movement here, and these linebackers are going the wrong way. Lateral before they get downhill. If you get them in that neutralizing position, it really helps your running game.
And again, Tim Bielik, an interesting look at exactly what's going on X's and O's, and that was Najee Harris. Again, they ran the ball for over 115 yards against Browns in that first game.
Yeah, they're going to obviously need to be really good with the line of scrimmage on Monday night of the Browns. The good news, obviously, Jadeveon Clowney is off the COVID list. Malik McDowell's off the COVID list. The defensive line is intact for the Browns. This front seven intact outside of JOK, who missed the practice on Thursday. So most of the guys that should be able to stop the run are back. And I mean, you know, again, like I said, this is probably as healthy as the Browns have looked in a couple of weeks. I know, obviously, those guys, you know, I know they were sick, but, you know, not having to take some hits for a couple of weeks probably gets them a little rested. So maybe in that regard, they should be good to go. The extra day of rest as well from having played on a Saturday versus the Steelers having played on a Sunday should help them. But they're intact, and if they want to really play well against the Steelers, they got to find a way to make them one-dimensional and make Ben have to be you by himself. We know he can do that even at his age. We know he can still do that, but you got to just find a way to make him do that consistently and see how long he can do it.
Well, the other thing was the Browns didn't have as much success as they probably thought they would against the Steelers running the football. Steelers' run defense, not good. Against the Steelers in that first meeting where the Browns lost. Nick Chubb only ran the ball 16 times for 61 yards. Kevin Stefanski talked about that Steelers run defense.
I know what the statistics say, but when we played them last time, it was a hard front to run on for us in that last game. You know, I know we ended up having some yards towards the end, but it's a stout front, and we have to make sure we're doing our job really along the front, on the perimeter, running back, you name it. You really have to be about your business because this is a physical group. They run multiple fronts. As you know, they have the big players on the edge. Number 97 is still playing at a very, very high level. So it's a really good group. So I know what the statistics say, and I understand that, but I have a ton of respect for that defense and that run defense.
And, Tim, I'd say this. I think the Steelers know the Browns' run scheme pretty well, so that might be a reason for it. When you look at this game, keys to it, what do the Browns need to do in just a gut feeling? Do you think the Browns get it done?
I know there's a lot going against the Browns, even though they're a Vegas favorite, which still is kind of weird to me. But I've just had this gut feeling for the last day or so that the Browns are just going to find a way to win in Pittsburgh. I mean, they've got the confidence knowing that they've already done it. They did it in the playoffs a year ago. I know there were no fans in the building, but it's still the Steelers. You still beat them in their building a year ago. So there's confidence there that they can do it. I think this game is going to come down to a couple things. For the Browns, it's going to be winning first down. And I think they're going to have to find creative ways to run the football, not just out of big sets. I think they're going to have to run out of 3, maybe 4 receiver sets, open up the box a little bit and make it a 5-on-5 or a 5-on-6 when it comes to running the football in the box. Open things up, not be afraid to run from open formations, just to get the Steelers out of loading up the box like they probably want to do against this Browns offense. And defensively, it's good for the Browns that Greg Newsom's out of the COVID protocols because they're going to need all the corners they can get, because I expect Ben Roethlisberger is going to want to try and give his receivers a lot of one-on-one opportunities, and the Browns have to be able to corral those. And if the Steelers are going to win some one-on-ones, which you know they're going to because Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and Pat Freiermuth are all really good receivers, you're going to have to make sure that those are limited plays, that they don't break loose and then it turns a 15-yard catch into a 35-yard play or a 50-yard play or something like that, that you contain them and that you limit their success in one-on-ones, that you win a couple, and then you get some turnovers if you're the corners. Because if those corners can hold up long enough, if Ben wants to get the ball out quickly, then that frees up time for Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney to try and do some work and get to Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know why. I think they'll find a way to win the game. I think the key is going to be offense needs to take care of the ball. Defense, if they can win the turnover battle, I think they win the game. I think it's that simple. I think if they lose the turnover battle, it's going to be awfully tough for them to win the game. Tim Bielik from The Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. Tim, as always, man, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
You got it. Have a good Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year to you as well. Tim Bielik, make sure you read him. Pages of The Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We change our focus. On the other side of the break, Sam Amico from hoopswire.com will join us. We'll talk Cavs. How do the Cavs replace Ricky Rubio? Straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. The Ohio Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, Partners in Education, where stars shine. Sports4CLE continues. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers, currently 5th in the Eastern Conference, only 4 games behind the Brooklyn Nets, the top team in the East. But dealing with some big losses. Let's welcome in Sam Amico of hoopswire.com. Sam, Ricky Rubio out for the year, torn ACL. That is a huge, huge loss for the Cavs. How important was he to what they do? How big of a loss is it? And what do the Cavs do moving forward?
As you just stated, it's a huge loss. He was kind of the guy, people forget that they lost Collin Sexton earlier this year because of all the Rubio news, but he was a guy who not only helped to replace the loss of Collin Sexton, but also just sort of came in the game, calmed things down, served as a starter sometimes next to Darius Garland, just really was that veteran presence, has been a veteran presence in every sense of the word, whether it's, hey, we need some scoring, so I'm going to, get us some points, or I'm going to make the pass that leads to more points, or I'm going to make the pass that leads to the pass. Just really has been having a career year, tied his career high with 13.1 points per game this season, had moments of explosiveness. And even when he wasn't scoring a lot or racking up a lot of numbers, he was just in there controlling things, keeping things calm. Earlier this year, Collin Sexton, when he was still playing, said, things can get a little wild out there, but if they do, we can always count on Ricky coming in and, calming us down, controlling the pace, getting us back on track. So, when you're a guy who handles the ball in basketball, point guard, you're very much like the quarterback in football. It's going to go kind of how you go. So he's just having an excellent season, and it's a real shame. And obviously, with Darius Garland being out because of the protocols, and even when he returns, you're going to need to find somebody somehow, some way to try to step in and fill that void. And that's not going to be an easy thing to do. I don't think the Cavs expected Rubio to be this good when they traded for him. I don't even know that Ricky Rubio expected to be this good in Cleveland when he came here before the season. So it's a big loss. But the way they've been playing this year, still there's reason for optimism because they have had so many people step up and fill in different roles.
So we'll get to who fills in for Ricky Rubio and what they do with that in just a minute. But is that a guy that you think? I know you have written that there were some extension talks going on. He was brought in or traded for 1 year remaining on his contract. Do you see him as a guy that they want back? I know he's a little up there in age, but you mentioned the veteran presence. That's something I would think you want. This is still a really young team and will be a really young team next year.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that the Cavs would like him back. The question now becomes, can you make it work financially? And yeah, you were talking extension before this happened, before he suffered the knee injury and is out for the year. But now you have to be realistic about things, and the Cavs will take that approach. You're going to be dealing with a point guard who's going to be 32 years old next October and is coming off major knee surgery. So how do you go about approaching that? How do you figure out, do we want to sign him to an extension, knowing those things, knowing that we don't know if he's going to be the same? You hope that he is, and you presume that he is, but can you fill a roster spot with that? That's something they need to figure out and are probably going to determine during the off season. You know, that all of a sudden I don't know that those extension talks are going to result in anything right now, but it's probably going to be delayed because of the injuries. So that really throws a wrench into things, excuse me, in terms of whether or not you continue on with Ricky Rubio. But as I said earlier, he brings so much more to what they're doing than just the actual on the court stuff. He brought that veteran presence in the locker room and helped in practice with Garland and some of the other young players. So from that standpoint, yes, you're going to want him back, but can you afford to take a roster spot if you think he can't be the same guy when he comes back from major knee surgery?
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, here's a name out there. He is listed as a point guard, a 6'11 point guard. Here are the odds, according to Maximum Bet, as to where Ben Simmons lands. They have the Portland Trailblazers, the favorite, at plus 250. The Cleveland Cavaliers right behind them at plus 275. We'll take it a step further. So Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN has said that the team to keep an eye on with Ben Simmons is the Cleveland Cavaliers. So the question becomes, who is Ben Simmons and what has he done? Here's a look at Ben Simmons, both the pluses and the minuses. The name Ben Simmons keeps being linked to the Cavs in some form or fashion. And with the injury to Ricky Rubio, the Cavs need a point guard. Simmons is 6'11 and is listed as a point guard. His talent is as intriguing as that sounds. Simmons was the #1 overall pick in the 2016 draft. He missed all of that season with a foot injury, but he was Rookie of the Year in 2017 when he came back. For his career, Ben Simmons is averaging 16 points, 8 rebounds, almost 8 assists in 275 career games. He's been an All-Star 3 times in 4 years. The last 2 seasons, he's been first team on the NBA's all-defensive team. Simmons can defend as well as anybody on the perimeter, and he's 6'11". He's viewed as a point forward, a player who the offense can run through and who can facilitate for others. His struggles shooting in last year's playoffs are well documented and real, as are his struggles from the free throw line. All those sound great and interesting, but Simmons is starting to earn the reputation as a diva, more concerned with everything not related to basketball than he is the game. He's dated a Kardashian and singer Tinashe. Great work if you can get it, but the question becomes, how focused is he on basketball and improving his craft? He has the ability and skill set to dominate at the highest level, and he's only 25, but he isn't dominating. But take a look at Jonathan Giovanni's scouting report from Simmons before he was drafted in the 2016 draft. He lacks competitiveness in crucial games, questions about his character, needs things to revolve around him both on and off the court, and is closed-minded to coaching. Those are all huge red flags for a player who has been good, but not great, and not playing to his true potential. And they seem to be in really sharp contrast to the things Kobe Altman and the Cavs have been looking for and building around so far in their young core. The cost to acquire Simmons will be at least a couple of #1s and some other good young talent. The question before Altman is, can he and JB Bickerstaff unlock the talent, or is the risk and price tag just too high? So let me ask you, Sam Amico from hoopswire.com, the risk seems awfully high. When you look at some of the things that were concerns before he was drafted #1 overall, and you've kind of seen him play out.
Yeah, I mean, it is a risky thing for the reasons that you just mentioned there, and the fact that the Cavs are having a lot of their success this year is based on, really, though it sounds cliche, but it's true, is their culture and the way their approach to the game. They have such a strong belief. They have a bond together on the court. It's all been a great fit, and we've seen them be competitive and playing hard and playing determined basketball without any sort of issues this season, even when they're missing key players. We've seen it with Jared Allen out. We saw it with Mobley out. We've seen it with Collin Sexton now. Okoro's missed time, Love's missed time, Markkanen's missed time, and now Chetty too. So the one constant in all of that has been their effort and their ability to coexist and their ability to keep anything that's, drama related out of the locker room, off the court. Now with a Ben Simmons, if you were to bring him in, and as you said, you're not going to get him for free. You're going to have to trade some of these pieces that have been working so well for you so far to go out and get a Ben Simmons who isn't a major head case or anything. I mean, it's just he's having issues with the Sixers right now after they first said they wanted to trade him and expressed that to him after the season. He has since not handled that well, but they didn't handle it well in the first place. So I'm giving him a pass with that. But the bottom line is there is some issue there that you've got to think, for the reasons you stated. Do we want to bring this guy into Cleveland who can't shoot very well? He's proven that over time. We don't know how willing he is to work at it. We don't know how well he responds to coaching. I'm not saying that those things are all negatives. We just don't know. So, those are the negatives. The positives are, would maybe a fresh start help a guy who is an all-star level player? Despite his shooting problems, he's still an all-star. He still shoots 52% from the field. He's still 6'11" and can run the point or play power forward. I mean, he's very versatile. He's clearly, if not the best defender of the perimeter in the league, one of the best. He's an all defensive team player year after year. He's young, and he does create offense, a lot of offense for others. So there's obviously pluses and minuses there. The concern being, on a team where so much success is predicated by fit, how is he going to fit in with this group?
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think there's any way to know that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think a fresh start will do him well. I just don't know if this is the right fit for the Cavs. All right, so we've mentioned the Cavs need a point guard. Sam Amico from HoopsWireandI.com. We're going to step aside. We're going to take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we'll get some names that Sam thinks might fit as a Cavs point guard backing up Darius Garland. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine. Too late at night. But feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Cavs, currently 20-14 on the year. Will play in Washington tonight. Then the Hawks over at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse tomorrow, back-to-backs for the Cavs. All right, Sam Amico, so we've talked a little bit about Cavs are going to be missing Ricky Rubio. What are some names, some of the guys they might look to bring in as a point guard that would fit kind of that veteran that might be able to do some of the things that Ricky Rubio was doing?
Well, it's going to be hard to replace because he's one of the few pass-first point guard types who really facilitates a lot for other people. So, but, there are veterans out there that are available, are kind of just sitting at home, have been proven in the past that they can fill in a pinch. One of the names that I like, or I hear other people who actually work around the NBA saying would be a good fit for them, is Mike James, who's 31 years old, played overseas a lot, was great overseas, was very good last year in a short stint with the Brooklyn Nets, filling in for Kyrie. He's available. Talk about maybe a guy like Chris Dunn, former first-round pick with the Chicago Bulls, solid type of player. He's not going to dazzle anybody, but can come in and maybe do a job, is available. There are other players kind of like that aren't quite as experienced. Maybe, somebody like a Frank Mason, who had played in the Milwaukee Bucks system as a former G League MVP. Quinn Cook, who the Cavs are familiar with, has been here before, has kind of bounced around the league with the Lakers and the Warriors, has been in a lot of winning situations. Those type of players are all kind of the guys who have had some NBA experience that, are just waiting for another opportunity, come in, try to make the most of another opportunity. Cleveland obviously has availability, and I think Cavs GM Kobe Altman is going to explore that avenue. I don't know if he's going to look at the players I just talked about, but those are the type of players that he's certainly going to explore bringing in, are the veterans who have been around the league a little bit. By the way, a lot of my readers on the website keep mentioning Jeff Teague, who is a former Atlanta Hawks, played with the Bucks. Right now, Jeff Teague, by the way, is as a scout for the Atlanta Hawks. That's not to say he wouldn't come back to play, but those kind of guys are just the names making the rounds. And I think those, we have a full list of free agent point guards, available players, veterans on HoopsWire. So I would imagine that Kobe Altman has his own list and is checking that and saying, who might we be able to bring in that's going to be cheap, that has experience, that can maybe fill in. Now, that said, if you don't want to go the free agent route, and the Cavs might not, you may be looking at a low-level trade. Who are some veteran players on teams that aren't contenders, that play the point guard, that can be easier to get, I should say, where you're not surrendering anybody from your core. You're maybe giving a player in a second-round pick to go get a veteran point guard, with DJ Augustine maybe of the Rockets being one example. He's playing a veteran player who's well-traveled, who's playing in a losing situation, a rebuilding situation, who may become available and presumably would be easy for the Cavs to get. So those are the types of names that you're going to be hearing, and I think that the Cavs, frankly, Dave, need to sign somebody pretty quick. Granted, we've got all kinds of health and safety protocol issues going around the league right now, but right now you just kind of want to bring in somebody veteran, get them in here fast, and get them acclimated.
Yeah, and it was, you watched the end of that New Orleans game after Ricky Rubio got injured, and quite frankly, they struggled to get into an offense because they didn't have a guy like one of the guys that we're talking about. Something else that's happened since the last time we talked, J.B. Bickerstaff extended, contract extension through the 26-27 season. What about the timing of that, and what message were the Cavs sending with that?
First of all, you want to reward him for, frankly, he's the early front runner for NBA Coach of the Year right now. I mean, they've just had such an outstanding, surprising resurgence. And again, when you talk about what I talked about earlier, this team has been playing hard and determined basketball and staying competitive despite kind of this, constant bump in the roads of injuries and guys entering protocols. That really boils down to the system and culture that J.B. Bickerstaff has put in place. He's really spoken a lot about his ability with the way the Cavs have played this year. And not only that, if you're the Cavaliers, you've kind of, until Bickerstaff was hired, you underwent a little bit of a coaching carousel there, between Beeline, Larry Drew, Ty Lue, and then Bickerstaff. You had too many coaches in too few seasons. So this will give them some stability and really kind of lets the players know who are here, JB is the man with us. So you're going to respect and take into account everything he says. And to the players' credit, so far, everybody who's here has done that, and it's worked very well. So, I thought that was a great thing. Bickerstaff has proven to be really a perfect fit for this group of guys.
Yeah, and it's, as we mentioned, young, really young team. And you want the guys to realize this guy's going to be the coach for a long time moving forward. This one's interesting. So we've kind of skirted around the subject of a backup point guard. That's because the starting point guard is Darius Garland. You mentioned health and safety protocols, hasn't been able to play. Take a look at the tweet from Kendrick Perkins. Outside of Trae Young, that young stud Darius Garland, second best point guard in the Eastern Conference, and he should be an all-star reserve. Now, Garland's in his third year. He's only played 144 career NBA games, only 5 college games. So, Sam, this is a guy that hasn't played a lot of basketball and is really good. What type of ceiling are you looking at for Darius Garland, given he's played 149 games between college and the NBA?
Yeah, I think his ceiling is kind of a poor man's Steph Curry. Obviously, he's not ever going to be the same type of shooter that Curry is, but he has that same similar type of game. You know, interestingly, Steph Curry's dad played for the Cavs, and Darius Garland's dad played for the Warriors, Winston Garland. So that's kind of a neat tie-in there. But I do think having, even though he hasn't played a ton of basketball in terms of being able to stay on the court for, at Vanderbilt or with the Cavs in his first 2 years, I think that he's got a really good basketball background, and his ceiling is still yet to come. And I agree with Kendrick Perkins. Darius Garland should be an all-star this season with the way he's played and with the way the Cavs have really been an Eastern Conference contender, frankly. So I think that his ceiling is really high. He could be a regular starter on the all-star team for years. He's proving, really, we're just seeing that the beginning stages, but he's proving to be a guy who is developing, throughout the course of the season. We've seen him cut way down on turnovers, and his decision-making has improved. He's got more people involved than he ever has before. He's been more of a facilitator. So I just think that he's really one of those guys who the sky is the limit. And by all accounts, he has the work ethic. He's putting in the time during the off season, really, when, they say champions are made. So with this, that would be my biggest fear for the Cavs, would be Garland, going out and missing extended time. I think as great as Mobley has been, as great as Allen has been, as good as Rubio has been, as good as Sexton's been in the past, Darius Garland really is the kind of the motor behind it all, and has been just fantastic. So I think as long as he's playing, the Cavs are going to be able to keep a good thing going, because he's really kind of the extension of the coach on the floor, got young legs, really making good decisions, and really their biggest reason, even though they have, Mobley's great, Allen's great, but I would say Darius Garland, to me, is their biggest reason for great hopes.
Sam Amico from hoopswire.com and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. On the other side of the break, what do the Cavs need to do to keep things going and stay competitive? And also some other names to listen out for is, will the Cavs add pieces to try to keep that or even improve their spot in the Eastern Conference? Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Cavs, currently 20-14, fifth place in the Eastern Conference, just 4 back of the top spot. Brooklyn Nets currently occupying that. Speaking of the Brooklyn Nets, So Kyrie Irving back in playing after clearing the health and safety protocols. The odds on his next team, according to Maximum Bet, Cavs are number one by a pretty significant margin. Cavs plus 200, Trailblazers plus 400, Lakers plus 500. That would be interesting, going back to play with LeBron. And the 76ers plus 600. Sam Amico, is it at all possible, likely that Kyrie Irving becomes the next point guard for your Cleveland Cavaliers?
Sadly, I've been covering sports long enough to know to never say never. But I wouldn't bet on this, even though if you're right, clearly you would really cash out. But I think that the Cavs are sold on Darius Garland being their point guard of the future, and wisely so. It's just, to me, you couldn't play those guys next to each other, Garland and Kyrie. And we all know Kyrie, whether you agree or disagree with what he says, it can create some tension and awkwardness in the locker room and kind of on the court. He gets along with his teammates, don't get me wrong, but there's just too much there. There's a lot of baggage, and I think Kyrie's actually a pretty good guy, so it's not like you'd be bringing in a knucklehead. There's just some weird things kind of go on when he's around, and he did demand a trade, or pretty much demanded a trade out of Cleveland back when they were going to the finals. So I just don't think he'd be a fit anymore. And I know it sounds crazy. Kyrie's one of the greatest. I would not trade Darius Garland for him at this point. I'd be too fearful of what might happen if those two played next to each other. I just think it'd be an awkward fit.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Anytime you see Kyrie Irving attached to most likely destination Cleveland, you got to discuss it. All right, Karis Levert. That's a guy that the Cavs were kind of tied to earlier. Do you think he's still an option? Is that still something the Cavs kind of try to explore?
I think so. I think that is the one more realistic than a Ben Simmons or a Kyrie Irving. I think that the Pacers are looking to trade Karis Levert as they kind of go through a retool themselves, and he would make sense in Cleveland. He is a guy who has kind of taken a step back this year on his own to, allow Chris Duarte, who's having a great year as a rookie for the Pacers, give him more of an opportunity, more shots. And Levert is the kind of combo guard who can kind of play three positions. He has the potential to explode and have those 30-point games. I don't think it's going to cost a ton to get him in terms of trade. You might have to give up Collin Sexton. I'm not positive about that, but I think that that's who the Pacers would want, and maybe the Cavs would be okay with that. They are rolling, or were rolling when healthy, without Sexton. But I think with all things considered, Levert can also run the offense. He can help run the offense. He's got those skills. So when you consider all that, is a deal with Indiana imminent? No. Are the Cavs interested in Karis Levert? Absolutely. Would the timing be right to make a deal to bring him in? I would say yes, more than any other time. Before, I was kind of wavering on it. Don't mess with a good thing. But now with Rubio out, that good thing, it may struggle a little bit. The Cavs may go through a speed bump here. So if you could go out and get a player like Karis Levert, who has all the versatility you need, has always been a team player, I certainly would consider that, and I'm pretty sure that the Cavs are gonna do just that. They'll consider it and look into it.
Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. Sam, as always, man, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, Dave, and we will talk to you soon.
I appreciate it. Sam Amico, make sure you read him, hoopswire.com, the latest on the NBA, especially the Cavs. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. No show tomorrow. We will see you back here Monday. The D-Man, Dennis Maniloff, and I will preview everything leading up to that Browns-Steelers Monday night affair in Pittsburgh Heinz Field. It will be Ben Roethlisberger's last regular season home game in Pittsburgh. We will see you at 4 o'clock on Monday. Have a great night and a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday on Sports4CLE.